Well, this is very much still ongoing. At the moment, we have a white male, we're told, wearing a burgundy shirt, who is still at large. Police looking for him. In the meantime, as you can tell from the video and the pictures, a very heavy police presence. Police and sheriff's officers responding to the area, as well as fire and EMS. And we are told medevac helicopters may also be inbound shortly.
His son is in Stillman Douglas High School. He said he heard noises and pops, and he thinks there's a shooting going on at the school. You said, shot, shot, shot. Mom, God. There was 3 shot in her room. Okay. Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
They are monitoring the subject right now. He went from the 3rd floor to the 2nd floor. 3rd to the 2nd floor. He may have a gas mask on now. Stand by for further. They're monitoring him on camera.
Again, at this hour, investigators here telling us that this scene will be processed. It will take time, Jim. As you know, it's painstaking and, of course, extremely graphic and painful for those investigators that will have to go through that school room by room as the deadly trail from this suspect was left behind.
It was 2:37. I text Lewis. At that point, he was still under the desk in the classroom, and he said, we're not sure if it's a drill. We've heard there's an active shooter. We've also heard he's in the freshman building.
I was texting my friend, are you like, I'm so scared, I don't know what's happening. And I was texting some of my other friends, are you okay? Like, where are you guys? Like, is everything okay? Like, are you safe? Are you in a safe place? Are you gonna be okay?
To get a viable opinion on the topic of media consumption affecting children, we interviewed Gloria Kidd, a psychology teacher from Rio Rancho High School. We asked her, how does overconsumption of media influence adolescents' growth and development? Her response?
There are probably some psychologists that would weigh in on that, and I would think Albert Bandura would be one of them, and he is kind of the psychologist who promoted the idea of observational learning. And so he's saying that while you're watching all of this, you're observing behavior going on. And if you're a young person and your frontal lobe is not developed, you're not able to screen out what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. So the whole idea of impulse control is so much lower in adolescents and young adolescents than it is in adults. So young adolescents and teens in general are probably going to be more risk takers as a result. And so where most people would think, oh, this is make-believe, and kind of go with that. And I think some very mature adolescents can handle that. There's still some that are not going to get that message that they need to be not doing what they're watching on the video game.
Albert Bandura, an important psychologist, was the creator of the Bobo doll experiment. In 1963, the Bobo doll experiment was designed to show how children learn aggression through visuals.
The segment you're about to see is taken from an early experiment on learning of aggressive styles of behavior through modeling. Children watched a filmed adult perform novel aggressive acts toward a inflated doll, and the physical aggression was accompanied by novel hostile remarks. We later measured how much of this modeled aggression the children had learned just by watching. Now, the measurement of learning of aggression uses simulated targets rather than live ones. For example, to test how well bombardiers have learned bombing strategies, you would use simulated targets rather than require them to bomb San Francisco or New York. The model pummeled the doll with a mallet, flung it in the air, kicked it repeatedly, threw it down and beat it. Once widely believed that seeing others vent aggression would drain the viewer's aggressive drive. As you can see, exposure to aggressive modeling is hardly cathartic. Exposure to aggressive modeling increased attraction to guns, even though it was never modeled. Guns had less appeal to children who had no exposure to the aggressive modeling. The children also picked up the novel hostile language.
Because a child can easily learn violent actions through visuals, it's understandable to see how much media could cause one to learn so many different ways to inflict violence, nonetheless learning more from excessive media consumption. Curious how media could affect a child's decision-making, we asked Gloria Kidd, is the prevalence of media violence pivotal to decision-making?
I suspect so, for young people, and for old people for that matter. So for young people, definitely, because of the frontal lobe still developing, so they're not able to control the impulses. But we all know adults who can't control their impulses either, and so I think it's going to be widespread through all different age groups.
Research coming out of Oxford University postulates that it isn't graphic, bloody headshots, spinal cord snaps, or gruesome Koopa Troopa curb stomps that generate aggressive/violent behavior in players. The root of the evil actually lies in the failure and frustration that a human experiences when gaming. So, instead of focusing just on the content and storylines of games, these guys also monitored the psychological side of basically trying to complete a task, which is trying to beat the game or finish a level.
If a child is unable to complete a task, whether it be through their phone, computer, or game console, they become angry. It is a normal human reaction to do this. However, it's when children use media for over-excessive amounts of time is when the issue becomes unhealthy and can resort to physical violence. The next question asked to Gloria Kidd was, what psychological terms best describe the correlation between media and child development?
What psychological terms best describe the correlation between media and adolescent development? So like how you like observational learning, stuff like that.
Definitely observational learning. I think also there's a pleasure center in your brain, the nucleus accumbens, and that kind of gets us addicted to things. And I think people become addicted to their video games. So they get dopamine from that nucleus accumbens, and it's pleasurable. And it's actually, there's good sides to it too. I think people relieve stress when they're playing video games. It's a way of escaping, you're not thinking about your reality at the moment. And so it serves good purposes, but it obviously can also lead you down a path of destruction.
When it's taken away, you often get this.
Batteries run out.
In a recent survey, 70% of parents admitted to letting their kids use their user-friendly devices. But some worry about what it's doing to their tiny developing brains. Evan, 9, Delaney, 7, and Dalton, who's 4. They are savvy digital divas.
Dalty? Can you hear me? Dalty?
No.
Did you hear me?
The Klauses of New Jersey are a very modern family.
So if we go out to eat, which we never do, and they're all out of control, we can whip them out and they will completely be distracted until the food arrives.
The final question asked to Gloria Kidd was, is there a relationship between media consumed and the various shootings that have taken place?
I think for some people, they'll interview some of the people who've been arrested, and even the people who've committed suicide. They do some historical background checks on them. the Columbine shooters, for instance, had journals that they kept and talked about the video games that they played and how that influenced them. I think they even developed some of their own video games, and so they were very, very violent. And so I think you can track that, but obviously it's a small percentage of the population that does that. So the majority of people are able to screen out what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. But that leaves maybe some mentally ill people more susceptible to acting out on those things.
Dr. Dunkley has her own recommendation.
Less than an hour or two a day is the healthiest. Kids that have the least amount of screen time have the highest grades, they read more, they sleep better.
And even the kids agree. What do you think is the right amount of time for you?
Maybe like 1 or 2 hours a day.
So your mind says 1 or 2 hours, but when you're actually in it, it'd go longer?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Kids just get addicted to it.
I think we all can agree that media violence is a real-world problem. And I believe that the best way for us to limit this issue and create a safe zone for all of us is by limiting our consumption of media. There's way too much watching, playing, and listening that's going on in our lives, and we need to get back to the real world and calm ourselves down.